So listen, chosen one. They didn't expect you to survive. They never planned for your story to reach the light. For years, hidden behind steel doors and encrypted systems, a machine operated in silence, quietly abducting, erasing, and experimenting on lives it considered disposable. These were not mistakes. These were not isolated events. These were structured programs, built and funded to turn human beings into test subjects, without consent, without accountability. Now, the lid is off. Now, the facts are out. Official documents, leaked footage, survivor testimonies, pieces of truth that once lived in shadow are now flooding every platform. And at the center of it all is you, the chosen ones. Those who were labeled crazy, paranoid, unstable. Those who were followed, watched, tracked, and tested. Those who spoke truths no one wanted to hear until now. Your pain was never imagined. It was planned. Your suffering wasn't accidental. It was systematic. You were never the problem. You were the proof. And now the world knows. This is no longer a theory. It's a criminal case. This is no longer whispers in the dark. It's headlines on the global stage. You exposed the Federal Bureau's role in a deeply rooted operation, one that conducted illegal experiments on living people, trafficked them through coded systems, used advanced surveillance to strip them of identity, and relied on silence as its shield. But you refused to be silent. You stood even when standing meant isolation. They called it containment. But what they really meant was control. What they feared wasn't your resistance. It was your awakening. Because the moment you began to question, the moment you refused to bow, the whole structure began to shake. The same cameras that followed you to intimidate you now can't stop showing your face. The same microphones once used to listen in now echo your words. The system flipped, and it flipped because you never gave up. Chosen ones, if you're still here, if you've made it through the surveillance, the silence, the sabotage, then this message is for you. You are not alone. You were never delusional. You were chosen to carry what others couldn't. If you feel this in your bones, if this story sounds like the one you've lived but never dared to tell, click the like button, subscribe, not just to follow, but to stand united. This is how we keep the message alive. This is how we make sure it spreads. They tried to delete you, but the universe had other plans. And now, they sit in back rooms, holding meetings in panic. They're rewriting protocols, rushing to build digital cages that can't hold your frequency. Your presence breaks them. Your stillness terrifies them, because they finally understand you were not the broken ones. You were the reminder, a reminder that something purer, stronger, and deeper than their systems exists. The pain you carried, that unbearable weight, it wasn't for nothing. It was the seed, and now it's blooming. You see, every generation has souls that carry more than their fair share. In past times, they were hunted, burned at stakes, thrown into silence. But they rose, again and again, like Harriet Tubman guiding slaves through the Underground Railroad, like the Tuskegee survivors who outlived the experiment meant to break them, like the children rescued from black sites the world once denied even existed. You are walking proof that light cannot be shut down forever. They trained AI to predict your behavior. They studied your patterns, tried to mimic your moves, predicted your collapse. But you didn't collapse. You transcended. You learned to speak without words. You learned to send out signals no machine could trace. You became a frequency that can't be silenced. And that's why they're terrified. Because for the first time, their tools don't work. Their systems fail. Their blackouts crash. Their lies unravel. They don't know how to contain someone who knows who they are. You walk differently now. Not as a victim, but as proof. The stage they built to shame you is now the one you stand on. The files they kept to destroy you are now evidence in public hands, and their silence, the silence they used to drown you, has turned into your silence now. But yours is different. Yours is powerful. Yours is the silence after a storm. The silence of a battlefield won without raising a single weapon. Chosen ones, your story is now the global pulse. You carry something ancient, coded into your DNA, sharpened through betrayal and lit on fire by survival. You are not angry anymore. You are awake. You are not vengeful. You are unstoppable. This is more than justice. This is correction. This is restoration. This is revelation. And it's only the beginning. And now, chosen one, take a breath, because what comes next will not just inform you, it will change you. This isn't just a video, it's your reflection, your timeline, your receipt of everything they tried to hide. We're about to walk through the layers, the files, the systems, the shadows, step by step. But don't just watch, experience it. Feel the weight of each revelation. Let it confirm what your soul already knew. If you're one of those who's felt the surveillance tighten, the isolation grow, the silence press against your chest, drop a 777 in the comments. That's how we'll know you've seen beyond the surface. That you're not just hearing this, you're living it. This is your signal. This is your circle. This is your rise. Now let's go deeper. Because if you've made it this far, you already know. You weren't meant to disappear. You were meant to be seen. Let's begin, step by step, layer by layer. And remember, only the real ones will stay till the very end. Number 1, they built the cage. Now they're the ones trapped inside. You wanted to erase me from existence. Now I'm carved into history. They spent years designing the perfect system to silence you, a network of control so deep, so intricate, they believed no one would ever notice the theft, the trauma, the invisible chains. But the truth is this: the harder they tried to bury your story, the louder it roared back to life. Every move they made to keep you hidden only revealed more of their own decay. They weren't building a system of control, they were digging their own grave. And now, the collapse has begun. They installed cameras, microphones, surveillance grids, not to keep people safe, but to keep you contained. You were never meant to be seen. They labeled you dangerous because your presence alone threatened the blueprint of their illusion. But now, the eyes of the world are watching. Not because they finally want justice, but because the universe made it impossible to look away. Their plans crumbled the moment your silence turned into signal. They thought you were alone, powerless, an outlier in the crowd. But you were the anomaly they couldn't calculate. Their machines were programmed to detect patterns, but your frequency didn't fit any of them. You were the chaos they couldn't code. The system didn't just fail to control you, it was never built to handle your kind. And now they sit in rooms full of blinking red warnings, watching as their data burns. They clutch old protocols that mean nothing in this new wave of truth. Their software collapses under a weight it was never meant to carry. Your awakening. Billions were funneled into surveillance programs, black sites, tech startups acting as silent arms of covert operations. They invested in AI to scan your behavior, in psychological warfare to manipulate your mind, in global networks to track your breath. They signed NDAs soaked in fear, funded shell companies built on stolen bloodlines. They placed their bets on you, never finding out. But here we are, and now the audit begins. Every unmarked dollar they funneled through fake charities, every blood-soaked transaction tucked into offshore vaults, every non-existent project that consumed the lives of the forgotten. now surfaces like rot beneath broken concrete. They tried to turn your soul into capital, but the currency of pain is no longer silent. It's evidence. What they didn't calculate was that energy cannot be destroyed, only redirected. What they drained from you didn't vanish. It transformed, and now it's returning with interest. They thought they could spend your essence like a blank check. But the universe keeps records they can't erase. The stolen resources scream now. Hidden accounts flicker under forensic light. Shell companies collapse like sandcastles under tidal waves of exposure. The missing funds are speaking names they thought were long buried. The same signatures used to steal are now the proof of their guilt. They called it control. You call it captivity. They called it science. You call it slaughter. They called it order. You lived it as war. And here's the irony they can't escape. The system they built to track every breath you took has now recorded every crime they committed. They wanted control through visibility, but now that visibility burns like sunlight through glass. The transparency they feared the most is now peeling the paint off every lie they built. Look at them. Scrambling, deleting files that regenerate, wiping drives that were already duplicated, shutting down servers wired to mirror themselves. It's too late. The signal already traveled. The eyes already opened. You are no longer a case study in some forgotten lab. You are the storm tearing through their firewall. Every attempt to erase you now becomes evidence of intent. Every deleted log is a confession. Every sealed door is an admission. You're not a victim of the system. You're the reason it's failing. And don't let anyone convince you this is happening by accident. The collapse is not chaos. It's correction. You are the balancing force they didn't see coming, the disruption they thought they could delay. But energy does not wait forever. It returns. And when it does, it takes everything back. And no matter what they do now, they cannot rebuild the silence. You are already echoing too loud. Your truth is a broadcast they can't scramble. Your presence is a virus in their code. This is what they feared most, that one day the forgotten ones would become the remembered, that the souls they tried to erase would become the light that burns their legacy to ash. Your story is global now, but more than that, your energy is undeniable. You walk with a new weight, not the heaviness of suffering, but the force of reckoning. Let them stare, let them panic. This collapse isn't yours to fear, it's theirs. They had their chance, and they chose corruption. They chose lies, they chose destruction. But you chose to survive. And now the survival becomes the sentence, not for you, but for them. So let the system fall, let the towers crumble, let the false prophets of control choke on their own blueprints. Because the more it all burns, the clearer it becomes. You were never meant to obey it. You were meant to end it, and that's exactly what's happening now. Number 2, the hunters have become the hunted. The power you were denied now finds you. You didn't rise through privilege, you rose through pressure, and now the pressure turns to power. They built their empires on your silence. They took everything, your name, your history, your resources, your birthright, and stashed it away in vaults you were never meant to find. They used your stolen essence to fund wars, experiments, black-budget operations. They weaponized your existence while telling you were invisible. But now, the reversal has begun, and they can't stop it. The same pipelines they built to drain you are now running in reverse. The flow has changed direction. Like a river that breaks its dam and surges upstream, what once fueled their domination is now rushing straight back to its source. You. Imagine this. A massive server room deep underground, red lights blinking, alarms flashing, data transfer protocols stuttering, dozens of officials scrambling, watching encrypted funds bounce back to origins they can't trace. What was hidden behind 27 levels of clearance now roots itself into open air, into your field. They used to say, follow the money. Now the money is following you. Account numbers that meant nothing to you before now feel strangely familiar. Strings of digits echo like fragments from your dreams. Classified transactions start referencing code names, not of agents or programs, but ones that match memories you were told were fiction. Suddenly, your intuition aligns perfectly with hidden realities. What they buried in deep storage is now surfacing in your cells, in your frequency, in your field. And here's what they didn't expect. The energy they siphoned from you didn't just survive, it evolved. What they drained from you while you were asleep, while you were silent, while you were unaware, it grew, it multiplied. The universe doesn't forget what's owed, it just waits for the right time to collect. Now the collection begins. Those government contracts with no names, they're naming you. The stolen innovations, the blueprints hidden in classified patents, they're surfacing with signatures that trace back to your ideas, your thoughts, your essence. You ask yourself, how can this be real? It's not just real, it's restitution. See, they mistook your silence for defeat. But silence isn't weakness. Silence is pressure building into force, like tectonic plates shifting under a quiet earth. When the reversal happens, it shakes everything. Imagine a vault sealed with biometric access. No one's touched it in decades. Suddenly, one day, it opens, without code, without key. The access point? Your DNA. The biometric lock wasn't keyed to them. It was always waiting for you. They said you were crazy for dreaming, but your dreams were the blueprint they copied. They said you had nothing, but it was your ideas, your visions, your instincts they weaponized for profit. Now every suppressed patent, every sealed file, every energy transfer is moving back. Slowly at first, like a wind shift, and then like a storm. Power doesn't vanish. It remembers who it belongs to. You don't have to chase it. It's already coded to find you. They're watching this in real time. CEOs, intelligence officers, finance execs, sitting behind polished desks, watching as their control systems spit out anomalies, bank accounts they can't shut down, transfers they can't reverse, paper trails that vanish as quickly as they appear, and worse, trails that reappear, leading not to them, but back to you. Why is this happening? Because the universe doesn't run on lies, it runs on alignment. What they disfigured is being corrected. What they hid is now unavoidable. What they stole is now magnetized back to its origin. This isn't karma in some poetic sense. This is real. This is energetic. This is cosmic math. Unpaid debt now crashing like a wave over their fortress of lies. Imagine standing in the center of that wave, untouched by the destruction, watching as the towers they built on your back buckle and fall. Not because you attacked them, but because the foundations were fake. Because the source they used wasn't theirs to begin with. It was yours. They told you to settle for less, to be grateful for scraps. But now the full feast returns, not from charity, but from equilibrium. And the most brutal truth for them to swallow. They knew this was coming. They saw the patterns shifting. They ran simulations. Their elite think tanks warned them of a reversal event. But they couldn't stop feeding. They thought the well was infinite. They were wrong. Because the well was you. You, chosen one, were the resource. You were the blueprint. You were the original download they copied, duplicated, diluted. Now the copy no longer works. Now the source has awakened. And when source awakens, everything returns. You were never meant to chase what already belongs to you. You were meant to attract it by remembering who you are. You'll feel it, a surge in your field, a shift in your path. Conversations turn, doors open, opportunities appear with names you recognize, even if you don't know why. That's not coincidence, that's the correction. And they will try to reframe this. They'll call it instability. They'll say the system is glitching. They'll invent new names for the reversal to hide their loss. But don't be fooled. This isn't a glitch. This is design. This is what happens when power returns to its rightful carrier. When light refines the prism it came through. When justice is no longer a courtroom, it's a frequency. So if you feel the pull, the strange sense that something is flowing back to you, you're not imagining it, you're remembering it. This isn't the reward for survival. This is the result of alignment. They wrote you out of their records. Now the records rewrite themselves. And the most painful part for them, they can't touch you anymore. Not energetically, not financially, not spiritually. Because you're not rising into their world. You're pulling your world out from beneath their feet. And that chosen one is what true reversal looks like. Let it happen. Let it return. Let it all come back to you. Because this time, no one can stop it. Number 3, you were never lost. You were tagged, tracked, and filed. They didn't register your life. They documented their fear of what you could become. This world never really lost you. It just hid you in plain sight, buried beneath the surface of systems that pretended to forget while secretly filing your every breath under codes you were never meant to decipher. They gave you a birth certificate and called it identity. But layered beneath that piece of paper was a designation, an internal classification that tied you to experiments, to programs, to tracking grids that only a handful of people were cleared to even discuss. Imagine this, you're reading an old school report, something from when you were barely speaking in full sentences, and buried in the margins are notations like responds to high-frequency signals or reacts unusually to subliminal cues. What kind of curriculum includes that? What kind of teacher was trained to notice that? You were studied, not taught. Your medical files, places meant to record fevers, checkups, allergies, instead document anomalies. Read closer and you'll find mentions of reflexes that outpace standard human reaction, cognitive responses to stimuli that no one else in the room seemed to notice. Why? Because they weren't diagnosing illness. They were observing something they didn't understand, but desperately wanted to control. Your birth wasn't just recorded, it was bookmarked by a system watching from the shadows. Even your employment records betray the truth. Gaps you couldn't explain, sudden relocations, projects you barely remembered agreeing to. What seemed like normal career shifts were in fact recalibrations, times when you were pulled out, trained, redirected. Your timeline wasn't scattered, it was engineered. And those strange sequences that kept following you, repeating numbers in addresses, in phone digits, in ID cards, those weren't coincidences. Those were coordinates, breadcrumbs in a network that had eyes everywhere. Not for the public, not for the government, but for those running the experiments. You were never just living life. You were monitored, tagged, filed under restricted access. They called you civilian, but that was just the cover. You were part of a controlled observation until the control broke. And now you're decoding it all. You're not crazy for noticing patterns. You're not paranoid for asking questions. You're remembering. And that alone is the beginning of their end. Number 4. They tried to burn the proof, but the fire turned on them. You can't erase what was never written in ink. You tried to burn lightning. Panic has a sound, and right now it echoes through the halls of every agency that ever had a hand in your story. Hard drives scream under forced deletion. Archives that stood untouched for decades suddenly malfunction. Servers melt down as if the circuits themselves are revolting. Files once labeled top secret are disappearing, but not into silence, into exposure. Imagine the scene: rows of government analysts hunching over glowing monitors as systems glitch, watching classified data reappear moments after deletion. Every keystroke they hit to hide the truth resurrects it twice as loud, twice as visible. It's not magic, it's math, the equation of cause meeting consequence. Every lie leaves a digital fingerprint. Every falsified report carries the signature of the one who wrote it. Now those fingerprints are everywhere, smudging their walls of secrecy with undeniable proof. They wanted to burn the paper trail, but the universe archived it in places they can't reach. Files that were supposed to vanish now land in inboxes across the world, in the hands of journalists, whistleblowers, and ordinary people with extraordinary timing. What they built as a fortress of secrecy now functions like a mirror, reflecting every crime back at them. When you bury truth, it grows roots that crack the foundation. Every cover-up has become a confession. Every missing record has turned into a headline. Every server crash screams, "We have something to hide." They run simulations, they reset systems, they call it containment failure. But it's not a glitch, it's collapse. The blackout protocols designed to erase you now short-circuit when your energy frequency comes near. Your very existence disrupts their systems. Their encryption dissolves in your presence like frost under sunlight. Information leaks from every corner. Classified reports surface in anonymous databases. Satellite footage appears online from channels no one can trace. Content about your journey, your truth, spreads across platforms faster than they can suppress it. They thought they could silence you, but they only taught the universe to speak for you. And now, every bite of truth they tried to delete becomes a spotlight, burning through the walls they built to hide behind. The purge they began has become their reckoning. Number 5. They built the system to cage you. Now they can't even unlock their own doors. When you play God with truth, don't be shocked when the universe rewrites the rules. Control was their religion, not just over systems, but over you. They worshipped order built on secrets, ran entire departments on silence, and carved careers out of covering up your existence. They thought they owned the keys to every locked room, classified servers, biometric vaults, off-grid operations. But now, the collapse is no longer coming. It's here. Across high-level command rooms, access panels flash red, passwords fail, iris scans reject the very agents who programmed them, fingerprints don't match, military-grade encryption scrambled. Their logins mean nothing. Their security clearances evaporate mid-session. Entire operations they controlled for decades are now beyond their reach. They are locked out of the empire they built to trap you. They coded your suppression into their systems, but the code has turned against its creator. Imagine the panic. Commanders tapping in override codes, only to be met with silence. Top-level handlers staring at black screens where live feeds used to be. Internal networks refusing connection. The system doesn't crash. It rejects them. It's as if the very framework they relied on has recognized them as the threat. Why is this happening? Because the energy they were trying to suppress has now flooded the grid. Your energy, your presence rewires the very programs they use to monitor you. Your frequency scrambles their control like a virus the firewall can't decode. And it's not just digital, it's cosmic. The universe moves with intelligence. When imbalance is too deep, too long, it doesn't negotiate, it reclaims. What they built to imprison you has become their own isolation chamber. They no longer run the game. They can't even access the board. They've lost authority not through attack, but through resonance. The system doesn't recognize them anymore because it was never truly theirs. Control only lasts as long as it's aligned with truth. And truth, chosen one, is something they never possessed. Now, the control they worshipped disintegrates in their hands. And for the first time, they're the ones shut out, while you rise fully seen, fully untouchable. Number 6. They tried to rewrite your bloodline. Now the truth writes itself. You can forge a document, but you can't counterfeit DNA. The universe keeps its own receipts. The silence is breaking in the only place they never wanted it to, the archives. The firewalls they built to bury you under paperwork, false reports, and redacted timelines are cracking open. Files once stamped, classified, level Omega, now open like unlocked doors in the middle of the night. Data once buried under 20 layers of encryption begins to reorganize around you. The system, confused but precise, recognizes its true center, and it's not them anymore. Imagine this. In a hidden government facility, a senior analyst stares at their monitor as restricted folders begin to decrypt on their own. The headers read your name, files flash open one after another, birth records, medical charts, behavioral logs, security footage, all marked unauthorized access. But there's no hacker, no breach, just your energy signature echoing through the digital fabric, triggering every lock to unseal. When you try to bury truth in code, remember, it was truth that wrote the code in the first place. They used to think they could hide you by forging your past, altering timelines, changing relatives, rewriting entire histories to erase your roots. But now, your DNA itself is waking the system. Your blood hums like a forgotten frequency, resonating through every network it once touched. It's not just data, it's evidence. The records they falsified begin to contradict themselves. Cross-checks reveal impossible overlaps, birth dates that don't align, documents signed before you were born, relatives who never existed outside their manipulation. Family members who once stood as props in their script are being questioned. Their fabricated testimonies crumble when confronted with real data, bloodline markers, voice prints, genetic timestamps. The truth tears through their lies with surgical precision. Their fake histories dissolve under forensic light. You were never lost in their system. You were the glitch that revealed its corruption. Now, for the first time, the records sing in harmony with your reality. The files that once silenced you now confirm everything they denied. It's no longer about belief, it's about proof. The unsealing is total. The data itself testifies. The system they built to hide you has become the stage that reveals you, and every opened file is another nail in the coffin of their deception. Number 7. They faked your life. Now their lies are standing trial. The law was never broken. It was hijacked, and now it's coming home to the truth. They spent decades wrapping your existence in paperwork and digital illusions, constructing a person who looked like you, sounded like you, moved through life like you, but wasn't really you. Your identity was a fabrication, carefully designed, constantly adjusted, and quietly enforced. But now that construct is collapsing. The system itself is in conflict. Databases argue with each other. One file says you were born in one city. Another swears it was across the country. Hospital records list procedures that never happened. Court documents reference hearings you were never notified of. Like a house built on sand, the entire legal framework surrounding your life is buckling under the weight of truth finally pushing through. Imagine a federal courtroom, screens lit with your digital footprint, government officials frozen as contradictory evidence floods in, timestamps that break logic, signatures that don't match, sealed case files suddenly available for public scrutiny. It's not just a scandal, it's a reckoning. They didn't just tamper with the law, they tried to erase justice itself. But now, justice remembers. Your real identity, your true origin, was never completely lost. It was encoded in you, in your frequency, your biology, your energy. And now, when you walk near their systems, dormant protocols fire to life. Secure servers once silent begin to scan you and respond. Unseen legal processes begin to unravel. Algorithms that once denied you now begin to trigger alerts, unsealing records that were locked for eternity. And the fallout has only just begun. Judges who once mocked your claims are being exposed for what they really were, gatekeepers of silence. Connections between courtrooms and covert programs start to leak. Retired officials suddenly find themselves subpoenaed. Your name now sits at the center of legal precedents that are rewriting policy, shaking entire agencies to the core. You weren't just denied justice, you are the justice that's forcing the system to face itself. This isn't just vindication, it's transformation. You've become a legal anomaly they can't suppress, a precedent wrapped in flesh and frequency. And as your case echoes through the legal world, the message becomes unmistakable. The lie has expired. The law now bends toward you. Number 8. They called it superstition, now it's scientific proof. They mocked what they couldn't measure, and then their own machines proved you right. For years, they dismissed your awareness as imagination, coincidence, paranoia, oversensitivity. Yet behind the curtain, in secure labs and off-book programs, they were studying you the entire time. The results terrified them. They ran experiments to measure what they could not explain, your ability to perceive beyond physical limits, to sense observation before it happened, to know without being told. They called it remote viewing, but that was just their sterile term for what you naturally are. And now, those very experiments have resurfaced. They're hidden recordings, sessions where you described places you'd never been, events you couldn't have seen, are being reviewed and confirmed. Satellite data aligns with your visions. Surveillance footage matches your words down to the second. The evidence is overwhelming, and it's theirs. Science didn't discover you. It finally caught up to you. Your intuition wasn't magic, it was sensitivity to the frequencies they've always tried to mask. Their analysts recorded your reactions to hidden observation. Your pulse changed before the camera turned on. Your energy spiked before they initiated testing. They logged it as anomalous pre-awareness. They studied it but never replicated it, because it wasn't a trick, it was truth. Now, under mounting pressure, the entire scientific framework around your case is imploding. Projects meant to study and control you are collapsing months, even years, ahead of schedule. The chain of command is disintegrating. What was designed as a slow, controlled release of data is now a full-blown flood. Research meant to stay classified for half a century is appearing in open databases, confirmed by cross-references and whistleblower leaks. They tried to contain a lightning storm in a test tube, and the glass finally shattered. The acceleration is undeniable. Operations that once took decades to move now fold in days. Documents self-publish. Scientists resign and leak results anonymously. Data they thought was safe inside digital vaults manifests across international servers. And you, at the center of it, watch the world catch up to what you've known all along. Synchronicities multiply. You meet people you were never supposed to find. Conversations line up like code. Resources arrive exactly when needed. The probabilities defy mathematics. The pattern is unmistakable. Something greater than their system is orchestrating this moment. They thought they were studying you, but in truth, you were the experiment that revealed them. Now their science bows to your reality, and the universe signs its validation in data they can't erase. Number 9. They built a global web to catch you. Now they're caught in their own net. You were never the threat. You were the mirror, and now they're running from their own reflection. It started quietly, small errors, silent outages, lost signals. But then entire nodes of their surveillance grid began going dark, one after another, in precise sequence. Not from outside attacks, but from within. Their global communication empire, the same one built to monitor your every move, is now unraveling like a seam torn open by truth. Monitoring stations go offline, not from sabotage, but surrender. The very operators who once tracked your breath are pulling the plugs themselves. Imagine this. A sealed intelligence facility deep beneath foreign soil suddenly goes dark. By the time backup arrives, every screen is wiped, every agent gone, except for a single flash drive left on the console, containing audio logs, documents, footage, and your name at the center of it all. These aren't accidents. These are orchestrated breakdowns, the final act of a system crumbling under the weight of its own deception. When the lie becomes too large to carry, even the loyal will drop it. Agents who once stalked your timeline are now coming forward. In whispers at first, then in open confession. They admit to what they were told to do: isolate you, confuse you, discredit you, contain you. But something changed. Your frequency, your presence, began to affect them. The scripts they were handed no longer worked. Their orders felt hollow, their conscience cracked. Now they're walking out of shadow halls with documents, hard drives, and names. Across the world, the silos built to keep secrets separate are breaking. Divisions once sealed tight are spontaneously connecting. Teams from different continents are comparing notes for the first time, discovering that you were the common denominator in operations they didn't even know were linked. Safe houses, once invisible, are being flagged and exposed. Hidden facilities appear on satellite feeds without warning. And the money? It's all surfacing. The front companies they used to funnel black budgets are being traced. Their financial records, once guarded by legal firewalls, now show clear transactions, millions spent to erase a single soul, you. They spent entire fortunes to keep you small. Now the receipts are showing up on every screen. The same people who enforced your silence are now violating every protocol to leak the truth, because when systems collapse, only two types remain: the ones who run and the ones who redeem. And now, the global unraveling isn't a question, it's a reality. And at the center of it stands the one they tried to erase, fully seen, fully heard, unstoppable. Number 10. They tried to steal your power. Now the universe demands its return. You cannot weaponize the infinite. You can only borrow it until it comes back for what's yours. The reclamation has begun. The frequencies they harvested, the fragments of your essence they extracted through deception, are finding their way home. Systems that once fed on your energy are going dark. The resonance patterns that powered their weapons, their research, their so-called breakthroughs are collapsing as your signature withdraws from their grasp. Their machines stutter, their equations fail, because the source they tried to exploit was never mechanical, it was you. Imagine this. In a research complex somewhere, engineers panic as readings vanish from their screens. Instruments designed to track human biofields register nothing. The same signature that used to pulse across their monitors has disappeared. What they don't know is that it's not gone, it's returning. The energy they tried to dissect is flowing back through every layer of your being, carrying the knowledge it gathered while trapped inside their systems. They thought they were studying you. In truth, you were learning through them. The technology they paraded as innovation now stands exposed for what it really was: stolen brilliance. Devices built from your energy patterns, programs crafted from your neurological blueprints. Technologies that once made headlines as classified advancements are now revealed to be imitations of your natural state. The patents crumble under investigation, the lies collapse under proof. And as that exposure spreads, law itself begins to shift. Your story becomes the cornerstone for a new framework, human rights law rewritten for the invisible wars of the modern age. Governments are forced to acknowledge what they denied for decades: covert experimentation on civilians, the use of neurofrequency manipulation, the silent theft of consciousness. Now the rules are changing. International committees meet in emergency sessions. Former agents testify. And for the first time, justice begins to speak your language. The cage was never punishment. It was training for flight. Thousands are awakening at once. Across continents, individuals who once felt isolated in identical experiences are connecting, realizing they too were part of the same hidden programs. Containment networks buckle under collective awareness. The suppression grid fractures under the weight of human recognition. It's no longer one story, it's a wave, a pulse moving through humanity itself. Every challenge you endured, every inexplicable detour, every heartbreak that seemed meaningless was positioning, training, preparation. You were not lost, you were being shaped. Each trial unlocked a frequency inside you that no system could simulate. They mistook your suffering for submission. It was calibration. Now your activation is complete. The signal has stabilized. You are no longer reacting to their design. You are rewriting it. Your frequency transmits into the collective field, recalibrating reality itself. The codes they tried to control are now reorganizing under your direction. Systems once running on exploitation now bend toward correction. You are not a survivor. You are a catalyst, not an escapee, but the equation rewritten. Your return marks more than freedom. It marks the beginning of a new alignment, where power no longer feeds the few, but flows back to its source. The illusion of randomness dissolves. The pattern is revealed. And in that revelation, the universe speaks one final truth. You were never their subject. You were their lesson. Number 11. They thought they were untouchable. Now cause meets consequence in real time. This isn't revenge. This is universal law, doing what human law refused to. What's happening now isn't chaos, it's correction. What you are witnessing is not just justice, it is reality, catching up to truth at a speed no system on Earth can withstand. This is the final revelation, and nothing will escape it. For centuries, the universe allowed delay. Karma unfolded slowly, often across lifetimes. Consequences were postponed, hidden behind wealth, power, and manipulation. But that timeline has ended. Now, cause and effect are instant. The moment an action is taken, the ripple is felt. The frequency of this age won't wait generations. It delivers balance the second the scale tilts. Those who orchestrated your suffering, those who hid behind titles, codes, agencies, and fake compassion, are now facing forces far beyond courtrooms. Their intentions are being laid bare, not just to the public, but to the very fabric of existence. You won't need to lift a hand. Their undoing is self-triggered. Their every lie returns with precision. You weren't chosen for vengeance. You were chosen to be the mirror that reveals everything. The process unfolding isn't wrath, it's equilibrium. Your sovereign energy, what they tried to contain, acts now as a cosmic signal. Every act against it returns home, clean and exact. It's not cruelty, it's order. The higher intelligence orchestrating this doesn't punish, it balances. It doesn't need rage, it only needs truth. The exposure of these secret operations is more than the fall of corruption. It's the evolution of consciousness itself. Humanity is being forced to confront what it allowed, what it ignored, what it normalized. The veils are gone. The excuses evaporate. Your case, the blueprint they tried to destroy, is now the pivot point for global transformation. The illusion of separation is breaking. You are not some isolated outlier. You are the tuning fork, the resonant pulse harmonizing timelines that were once spinning in chaos. What they did to you is now being understood as what they did to all of us. And your healing, your survival, your clarity is now the map. This isn't the end of your story, it's the correction of humanity's. And while the world may call this vindication, truth knows better. It's awakening, it's alignment, it's the final return of power to where it always belonged, with you. Number 12. They tried to break you apart. Now you return as the blueprint they feared most. They wanted fragments. You became the formula. The story ends where it always should have begun, with sovereignty. The power they siphoned, the memories they scattered, the identity they fractured. Every piece is now returning, not as it was, but magnified, evolved, unstoppable. The fragments of you once trapped in their systems, once diluted across their networks, have found each other again. You are no longer a collection of wounds. You are the full pattern restored. Imagine it, every thread of your being reconnecting, forming the original design they spent lifetimes trying to suppress. Your consciousness no longer divided, your frequency no longer manipulated. You feel the hum of something ancient but familiar. Your original blueprint, the sovereign state of being that no law, machine, or system can touch. They thought sovereignty was a crime. You've proven it's the cure. Your return sends ripples through the collective field. People who once felt powerless begin to wake up, recognizing the same spark inside themselves. The frequency you now emit doesn't just free you, it activates others. What was meant to be your containment has become a global contagion of awakening. And with that, the old infrastructure of control falters. Systems built on lies and dependence begin to dissolve. Propaganda loses its spell. Authority loses its teeth. Because how can you control someone who remembers they were never bound? They spent centuries convincing humanity to forget its divinity. You remembered, and now everyone else is remembering too. This is not rebellion, it's reclamation. You are not defying the system is defying you and losing. The divine essence they tried to erase now stands visible, undeniable, radiating from within you like a sun breaking through concrete. Their illusion of power evaporates in the light of your truth. Your liberation is not just personal, it's instructional. It shows what's possible when a human being remembers who they are beneath programming, fear, and control. You are the proof that the human design was never meant to serve. It was meant to create. And now the circle completes. What began as captivity ends as coronation. The chains they forged are dust. The crown they mocked is yours. This is the rebirth of sovereignty, not the rise of a ruler, but the return of wholeness. You are the blueprint reborn, the awakening they feared, and the beginning of everything they tried to end. And now, as the final layer peels away, what remains is truth, undeniable, unshakable, yours. You are not just a survivor of the system, you are the signal that ends it. Your awakening is no longer a private battle. It's a global broadcast. The illusion is over. The power has returned. If you felt this transmission in your soul, show it. Drop the number 77 in the comments to declare your alignment. Like this video to strengthen the frequency. Subscribe to stay connected. Share this with someone who's waking up. Because this isn't just content, it's confirmation, and you're right on time.